Good evening, everybody. I'm Jane McIntosh, Senior Director for Individual Giving and Membership here at Lincoln Center. And on behalf of our Chair, Catherine Farley, and our President, Reynold Levy, I'm delighted to welcome you to the David Rubenstein Atrium. The 101 series is a specially curated series for the young patrons of Lincoln Center. And the goal of the program is to create these types of evenings to demystify some of the core art forms that we present regularly on our campus here at Lincoln Center. I'd like to thank Nespresso, our young patrons sponsor, and they're with us tonight, and they're serving coffee, so please sample. I'd also like to thank Jeffrey Zurofsky and Witchcraft, which is the official food and wine partner with the young patrons. And they feed us a lot of really wonderful food, which we'll be having after this program tonight. Of the 24 or so 101s that we've done, we never have done one on choral music. And we talked about this a little while ago and tried to think of who would be the best person who could come and do a program on choral music. And I'm a little biased because I'm a singer. And I said, well, let's see if we can get Eric Whitacre. Maybe if we email him, he'll say yes. So we emailed him, and here we are. So it really is a thrill to present and to be a part of the world premiere of Water Night and to have such an accomplished and wonderful composer and conductor with us. So please join me in welcoming Eric Whitacre.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone here in the hall tonight, and hello to everyone out there in cyberspace. It's so cool that you can join us. Thank you to Lincoln Center, of course, and to the young patrons of Lincoln Center. I have to say, it's thrilling to hear the words young and Lincoln Center in the same sentence. It's very, very exciting for me. Tonight, we are obviously going to unveil Virtual Choir 3, but it occurred to me that some of you may only know a very little bit about virtual choir. I know some of you are members, so you know quite a bit about it. And drunk, apparently. But I thought I'd give just a brief history of how virtual choir got started, and before we launch into Virtual Choir 3. After that, I'm going to bring a couple men to the stage, heroes of mine, mentors of mine. We'll talk for a little bit, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So to begin, I received this video on YouTube.
Hi, Mr. Eric Whitacre. My name is...
Let's try that again, shall we? Ready, gang?
Hi, Mr. Eric Whitacre. My name is Brittlin Lucy, and this is a video that I'd like to make for you. Here's me singing Sleep. I'm a little nervous, just to let you know. If
So that's 17-year-old Brittlin Lucy basically leaving a fan video for me. You didn't hear the first part, but she says, "Hello, Mr. Whitacre, I'm a big fan." It's incredibly sweet. You should know that Brittlin is here with us tonight. Brittlin. I saw this video and I thought it was the sweetest, most delicate, innocent, beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Her voice was so pure, her intention was so pure. The video was so intimate, you could see back the little teddy bear on the piano behind her in her room. And a thought struck me like a thunderbolt. I thought, you know, if you could somehow get 50 people to all do this at the same tempo and in the same key, sitting alone in their room wherever they were, singing soprano, alto, tenor, bass part, they upload them to YouTube, and then if you could just start all the videos together at the same time, it would have to make a choir, right? It would sound like music. It would be a virtual choir. And so I wrote on my blog, here's what we're doing. And I had no idea how we were going to actually pull this off. We kind of bantered back and forth online, and after thinking about it a little bit, I uploaded this conductor track to YouTube. There's no sound to it initially. which I can tell you was an incredibly awkward filming day. So that's me conducting a piece that I'd written called Lux Arumque, which means light and cold, and basically hearing the sound of it in my head, imagining the choir that would come to be. Later on, I put a piano track underneath my conducting just so that the singers would have a tonality to follow to make sure that we didn't go flat or sharp. And I posted this, and lo and behold, these videos started coming in. This is Cheryl Ang from Singapore. This is Evangelina Etienne. And please remember Vangie, I'll speak about her later. This is Stephen Hansen from Sweden. And this is Jamal Walker from Texas. Jamal especially has a beautiful voice, but they all are just gorgeous on their own. There's even a small soprano solo in the piece, and so I held online auditions. People uploaded their videos, and I chose Melody Myers from Tennessee. Superstar, right? So easy, so effortless. And as I was working on this, I realized I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do with all of this. And this young man named Scott Haynes sort of emerged from the crowd, and he wrote to me and said, I'd like to be a part of this. This is the project I've been waiting for my whole life. I was so glad that Scott contacted me, thank God. And Scott aggregated all of the videos. He cleaned them up, scrubbed the audio, got them all to start at exactly the same time, and put them together into this video for Lux Arumque. And this is the video we uploaded. Lux Arumque, performed by the virtual choir. I'll stop it here in the interest of time. Thank you. And our final tally was 185 singers from 12 different countries. And the video went viral very, very quickly. Over 1 million hits in less than 60 days. It's at 3 million hits now. It was beyond our wildest dreams, and singers came out of the woodwork. They wanted to be a part of this thing. When are we doing virtual choir too? So I set a relatively arbitrary number based on a video that was on MTV, and I said 900 is our goal. We want 900 singers. When we finished Virtual Choir 2, we had 2,052 singers from 58 different countries. Thank you, thank you. Something magical and extraordinary was happening. This community was beginning to form organically. and people were making friendships online. People were helping each other. There's members of the VC Army are here tonight, the Virtual Choir Army. These are people who have reached out in their spare time to give service, to help other people be a part of this, to help them with the technology, to help them with the singing. All of this was happening sort of without any input from me at all. It was just this thing that was going and making itself quite beautiful. And as we talked about what we wanted to accomplish for Virtual Choir 3, there's the obvious direction, which is let's make it bigger. Let's just keep getting bigger. Let's see if we can get every person on earth singing eventually. But there were some practical considerations, not the least of which was the render time and the computer power needed for even 2,000 videos, which was difficult with Virtual Choir 2. And also, I wanted to up the game in an artistic way. And so I chose from my catalog a piece called Water Night that I'd written in 1994. It's one of the more difficult pieces that I've written. Most choral music is written in 4 parts: soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. Water Night sort of infamously breaks at one point into 14 different parts. Everyone splits. The text is dense and deep and surreal. It's by the Mexican poet Octavio Paz. And my mandate for the singers was, let's raise our game. Let's have the best possible singing, make the most musical possible expression, see what we can do. And frankly, I thought that by choosing Water Night, I would scare off so many singers that our numbers would go down. As it turns out, Virtual Choir 3 has 3,746 videos from 73 different countries. And I guess we're all here to see it tonight, so I will hit the space bar and it will go live in cyberspace as well. This is Virtual Choir 3 Water Night, performed by the Virtual Choir. Thank you. Thank you. This video is now live online. The amazing part is that it goes on for nearly another 8 minutes, and it's just a scroll of credits of all of the singers. It's really something to behold. At this time now, I would like to bring to the stage to talk a little bit about this, as I said, two men who have changed my life completely. The first, arguably, well, I think without argument, the most celebrated composer living today. John Corigliano teaches at the Juilliard School. His music is performed worldwide. He's the winner of the BAFTA, the Graumeyer, the Oscar, the Grammy, and the Pulitzer Prize. And he was my teacher while I was a student at the Juilliard School. Please welcome John Corigliano to the stage. That was electric, John. Next is Mr. Chris Anderson, the curator and mastermind behind the TED conferences, Technology, Entertainment, and Design. Yes, I'm sure all of you have seen the videos online or may have even attended the conferences. Chris has changed the world in the 11 years that you've been with TED, to be sure. And in the immortal words of Steve Jobs, if I may, you've well and truly dented the universe, without question. Please welcome to the stage Mr. Chris Anderson. What I thought would be very interesting is, first, the impact that they both had in my life. John, first you with me, teacher-student, and Chris, you gave me this global platform. I did a TED Talk last year, and my life changed 10 minutes after I'd finished. I was actually a trending topic on Twitter because of that. Yes, that was quite an exhilarating moment. Let's just start here. First impressions, and be completely honest, please.
You did it again. You made me cry, which I on balance, actually a great thing. Who cried? So you've got a lot to answer for, and I'm curious as to why, and I have a theory about it, which we can talk about in a bit. But words are hard as a reaction, but what I felt was big.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you. John, we were talking backstage.
Right.
This is the first time you've seen virtual choir at
Right.
all.
Right.
So you're coming to this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, well, of course, the amazement of the immensity of what you've done, of taking people all around the world and bringing them together. And I think it's more than just musical. Faces from every country singing together, getting to know each other. I mean, this is a human act as well as an act of art. And the chorus sounded great. I mean, it really did. But I mean, it was also the combination of people who really cared about one thing and all cared together.
That's the amazing part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shared intention.
Yeah.
I agree. And you're both incredibly generous, but I tell you, without any sense of humility, I feel my part in this is so very, very small. It's all doing itself. It has this life of its own, and I think maybe that's the magic that you're talking about, is something bigger seems to be happening.
Well, it's a puzzle. I mean, everyone here obviously knows the power of music and how much that can get into you. But there's something about seeing this choir that does feel bigger than that. And I guess in my TED role, I go back to wondering, what is this? There's no agreed theory about what music is for in human evolution, why we even have it. But one of the more compelling ideas out there is that it plays a role in bringing people together, whether you're talking about an ancient campfire and people kind of chanting together, or a church, or a football crowd in England where people are swaying and singing together. For a moment, something is happening there. People are literally syncing up. Their brains are literally doing the same things together, and something is unlocked. People feel a really profound oneness. Okay? Now, so one explanation for this, at least to me, is that you have found a way of unlocking a puzzle. all of us worry about the world right now. There's a lot of scary things out there. We have fear right and left. In this country, we have incomprehension and fear about what they over there are doing to us. You look at a thing like this, and all of that goes. You've got individuals in these different countries who are magically, powerfully as one. And I think that music, the power of your music, and that experience, that connected experience, is really quite profound and has a shot at creating a kind of unity of intention and purpose that actually matters to the world's future.
What I love and what I find fascinating is that in looking for comparisons, you were saying, you know, a stadium full of people singing or singing around the campfire. But what's so unusual about virtual choir, of course, is that the experience that the individual singers are having couldn't be further removed from that. They're sitting alone in their room with the headphones on and practicing 20 times, and you know, the cat's walking on the keyboard and their mother is yelling at them. And yet, yeah, literally.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture. Yeah. One looking at you while you're directing.
Seriously?
Absolutely.
Well, at least someone was watching me. But that's the amazing part of it, is that the singers, and myself included, seem to be feeling a sense of community, that same thing, as if we're together, as if we're in the same room together. But it's completely separated over time and space.
And I'm guessing, I'd actually love to hear from the people performing, I'm guessing that there is one experience when you're doing it, where you have a sense that you're part of something bigger, and then a whole other experience when you actually see it and you see the other people, and you know, there's a moment there that perhaps feels different again. I mean, I think, Eric, at some point in your future, there is the ability and the technology to do this live and combine the two of them together and somehow arrange for people to sing and to see and experience at the same time. Maybe that's Virtual Choir 15, but it's in your future.
Oh, God. I hope you're right. I truly hope you're right. John, we were talking backstage about the music and about when I was studying with you,
Right.
the architecture of the music itself and,
Right.
and building, I remember you describing it to me, sort of building the architecture for an ecstatic experience. So that the building blocks are there to allow people to have this.
Right. Well, in poetry, if you have a good poem, the poem will show you where that experience is. And you have to hone in on it. You have to know. You don't start just composing from the beginning. You find out where it is and what it should be. And then you work backwards to the beginning, because the beginning is not where you're going. It's just where you're starting. And you were very good at that. I mean, you immediately would look at a poem and say, this is the point which peaks everything, and this is the point where things get faster, and these are the points where we should hold back. And so we could create, you and I, an actual form of music that corresponded to the form of the text.
Yes, exactly.
And you can do this with abstract music, too. You can actually plan a piece before you write it. The climaxes, where you're going, what's going to happen to a piece. It's a very exciting adventure in making your own shapes. And
Yeah, and will you speak to that process that you taught me, literally, how you showed me to?
Well, sometimes in abstract music, when you don't have words, you're on your own, and you have to really build these things. And once, when I was trying to create a world of ghosts for this opera I wrote, The Ghosts of Versailles, I bought colored pencils, and I traced a blue and a magenta, and then going into red and going into yellow with a wavy line, and I felt that what I wanted was this single line to change colors as it went. Well, I ended up doing that by having 7 instruments finger and bow this passage, but not to play it, excepting occasionally to raise themselves up to a soft level and come down. So it was like cigarette smoke, where it comes and it wafts up, and then sometimes you don't see it, and then sometimes you see it again. And that created the world of ghosts. Other times I would chart out the shape of a whole piece, a 30-minute piece, before I could begin understanding how to where I attack it first. In my percussion concerto, actually the thing I wanted was a beautiful theme. Percussionists don't usually play beautiful melodies because there's not many instruments that you can really play a good melody on that sustains. I found a way to do that with a vibraphone where you hit it and bow it. And then I wrote that theme before I accepted the commission because it's so important to me that the important parts of the piece are known first. And you do that instinctually and also with your brain working.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I will give you much of the credit, though, in terms of understanding deep architecture. One of the things that John taught me to do was to write music without writing music, if you will. So we would take these pages, and you draw a picture of what the piece would look like, as abstract as you could, and use different colors, use paints, use cutouts, whatever you needed to make the picture of the piece, so that as a composer you were never handcuffed by the tyranny of harmony, right? So that you weren't sitting at the piano agonizing over
No pitches, no rhythms.
Exactly.
Just the shape of where it's going, where it's coming from, how it's getting there. Is it a giant leap up, or is it a slow crescendo? Does it fall down, or does it jaggedly go down? And how the music relates, therefore, from beginning to end. It's a really exciting way to think of music when you're a composer, but it's very scary because you don't have any music. You know, what you have is these funny pages with scrolls on them.
Yeah, the commissioners don't seem very happy when you
No, they
deliver
don't.
that,
You
do they?
can't give them that. That won't do.
So one of the things that's come up, interestingly, it's rare, but it does come up, people saying that actually this is not a good thing. That in fact the technology is, well, the internet in general and technology is it's a force of desensitization and community breaking, that it's isolating. Obviously, Chris, you're a massive fan and proponent of the internet. What would you say to those critics?
I mean, I think some of the criticisms are important. I think the web has created a lot of distraction, a lot of potential for people to not do anything important. Arguably, it's fragmented attention more than is healthy, and it's made it much harder for people to do things that are actually really important, like read or immersion in something. There are a lot of distractions out there, but there are extraordinary redeeming features, and I would say that the balance is that there is the massive potential for good to come out of the web, and number one on that list is that people are connected across borders. Our tribalism, which is so dangerous and will be the ruin of us unless we can do something about it, has a shot at being undercut by the connectivity that is online, and the fact that we can have the same conversation with people who are sitting right now in Cairo or Tunis or Shanghai, and there is a shared set of values, and you see it in the generation coming through, that they actually feel a connection that the generation before us, my generation, never had. I think that's a big deal, and there's hope in it, but that we it's all to be played for, and it depends what is done with those connections. It's quite possible for destructiveness to spread like a virus across the web, in the same way that it's possible for good ideas, good thinking, and just the power of music to connect. And I think what's exciting about this, again, is just that, music changes how people respond to stuff. I mean, at TED, it's a rule that we have music every hour or so. You've got to get out of just the pure intellectual part of the conversation, because that leads very quickly to aggression and right, wrong, and so forth.
Things, but it feels like and we mourn together. The woman that I asked you to remember, the African-American woman, Evangelina, she died of brain cancer at 22 last year. Unexpected and awful, and we mourned together. It was beautiful, the way, I mean, thousands and thousands of messages and posts, and her family was involved, and they saw all of this, and it was as if she was part of this bigger family. It was humbling to be a part of that. Perhaps we'll open the floor to questions now, if there are any. I think there's microphones going around so that you can be heard on the webcast as well. Yes, please. If you'll just wait for the microphone, thank you. For any of us, please.
I was one of the criers. Congratulations. It's a new art form. And how did you, was it just viral from one little video? I mean, how did you get the participation? Was it all from YouTube or an All Points Bulletin or how did you grow it?
It was strange. So I have a pretty active blog and web presence, at least within the community of singers. So when I posted this idea, instantly a few people responded and said, wow, let's do that. And then word kind of spread. What was amazing was to see word really spread once the first video went up. We thought it was kind of a little secret between all of us. And then this thing went very viral. And we were just inundated with singers from all over the world that wanted to be a part of this. When is the next one? How do we do this? That's an interesting thing, too, about the human condition, isn't it? That you see something beautiful and exotic like that, and your first response is, how can I be a part of that? How can I help?
Eric?
Yes.
I think she was also asking a question which I had, which is, what do? Do they ask for the music to be mailed to them?
Oh, actually, how do they do it?
Yeah, actually, how do they do it?
Oh, so I think that's
what you meant.
For the first 2 virtual choirs, we just offered the sheet music as a free download. So you click on the link, and then you get the PDF, and then you study it as best you can or print it out, and then sing along this way. For virtual choir 3, we tried somewhat successfully to have the conductor video here, and then the music, your part, scrolling underneath it, so that you could. And then there were also from the crowd that there were people who uploaded their voice parts so that people who couldn't read music could learn by ear, and people helping, and we even had voice lessons. Some of my professional singers in London had online voice lessons with people. And our goal for this always is no singer left behind. There hasn't been a single singer, not a single singer who hasn't made the virtual choir if they've gone to the effort to be a part of it. Yes.
Sure. I have 2 sort of technical questions which you can refer on, but one, how did you get it to time up? I know that seems like such the obvious question. How did you get it to start together? And the second question is, was there an artistic editing process in terms of issues of balance and that sort of thing
Musical balance.
Musical balance as you brought it from the individuals into the virtual choir?
Yes, well, so for the first virtual choir, this young man, Scott Haynes, did both video and audio. And he spent 3 months of his time, night and day, making this thing work. The beautiful thing is that none of it is manufactured, in that there's not a single singer who's been auto-tuned, for instance. What you see is what you get. When it's cut together now, what we do is we clean up some of the diction. I didn't even think about it, but Virtual Choir 2 is a piece that I wrote called Sleep. And the final 2 minutes is this meditation on the word sleep over and over and over. Well, you can imagine 2,000 people with that S, sleeps, you just want to kill yourself. And so there was some editing to make that happen. Then within that, there's a very complex mix where we're trying to get the balance just right. And what we do is we audition all of the videos and then form an honor choir, if you will, of the best 100, 200 voices, and they become the core of the sound, and then we start to build the others out in a halo. One thing that has shocked us all 3 times is that we have had nearly equal parts, soprano, altos, tenors, and basses, which you can't get in real choirs, so we don't know why it's going on. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I'd like to hear a little bit about what it's like for you when you get the videos. Do you play 1? Do you play 2? How many does it take before it starts to sound like a chorus for you? Or do you put like 20 together at a time and listen to that? How does that work?
Yeah, you mean for me personally? Or the team, just me personally? Yeah, I mean, I have to say I'm a bit of a voyeur when it comes to virtual choir. I love to just go and watch people's videos. I'm fascinated by... I think partly because I would never do it ever. I mean, it's so brave, you're just so completely naked. And choral singing... It was horrifying. Was it? Oh, yeah. Choral singing, of course, is something different than solo singing, right? And it's one of the beauties of choirs is that you don't have to be an extraordinary solo vocalist to be part of a choir. But for instance, the issue of stagger breathing, right? Where stagger breathing means that you're trying to give the illusion with lots of voices that no one is taking a breath, so you can have these long phrases. And the way that you do that is people are sneaking little breaths at different times, staggering them, and it creates this luscious sound. But when you hear your own voice doing it, it just sounds awful, doesn't it? You know, you're gasping for breath, and it makes no musical sense whatsoever. And yeah, and so I get, yeah, and especially in Water Night, right? And I just get a big kick out of watching individuals deal with the technology.
That's really sick.
For me, though, it's a quorum of two. That as soon as I put two videos together, even if I just take them in YouTube, you know, open two browser windows and start them together, and as soon as they start to do it, then the magic happens for me. I can't believe this works. They line up, and how beautiful, they're harmonizing. Yes, please. Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. Hey.
I think I'm just one here. Okay. Hi. So I recently wrote my college essay on vocal performance and body image and how they're like tied. Because like him, it's terrifying doing these. So I just wanted to know, do you have any like advice about for people like me who kind of freak out when they're singing by themselves or even in a choir?
When you say freak out, what do you mean exactly?
I mean, I don't know. I find like even when I'm singing by myself, it's like I really want to, you know, sound beautiful and be part of a choir. Or if it's a solo, then that's a whole different story. But, you know, what would you say to someone who wants to just be beautiful, like, you know, vocally?
I would encourage them to seek out a therapist. No, I'm kidding. Vocalists are notoriously difficult on themselves, as you're saying. It's a body image thing, and I think it's because it's you. If someone doesn't like your cello playing, that's either something that can be fixed, or it's the cello, or it's a mechanical issue. But if someone doesn't like the way you sing, they kind of don't like you. At least that's how it feels, you know? My wife, who's a singer, whenever we work together, I have to be incredibly professional with her, because if I say to her, "You're a little bit flat there," what she hears is, "I don't love you anymore." So I can relate to the insecurity. That being said, I think you'll find it's actually a powerful tool, because what it means is that you're constantly in touch with that part of you that is reflective. And so actually I would learn to embrace that kind of thing. And then just after experience, after a while, you'll let it all go.
Yeah, because I wrote about, like, you know, how I've grown as a singer, because I've been singing since I was little. And, you know, I used to be really hard on myself, but I'm not as much anymore. But this, like, singing in this choir still freaked me out a little bit. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So first I'd like to thank you so much for putting this all together. It's an honor being a part of this.
Thank you.
And my question is, how long after the release of one virtual choir before you start thinking about the next one?
Yeah. So it's funny, because even just today, I met with the 5 or 6 virtual choir army members, and many of them I'm meeting in reality for the first time. And so we had lunch today, and that's basically all we talked about, is what we're going to do for Virtual Choir 4. The truth is, she doesn't want me to talk about her, but my manager, Claire Long, who's also the executive producer of these virtual choirs and is brilliant, she and I have been talking about Virtual Choir 4 for months now, and trying to plan, because first there's the technology to push, right, which takes a lot of lead time, and we're hoping to push it even harder for Virtual Choir 4. And then there's simply even the matter of the piece. What is it we're going to do? We were talking today that the past 3 have been pretty slow, liquidy choral works, which is good in a pragmatic sense, because you get some play in there when you're not rhythmically accurate. But I think we want to do something a little faster, anthemic, and visceral for the next one.
Any hints on what it might be?
Not yet. But we will announce. God, I don't know, but I promise we will announce it.
We're most certainly looking forward to it.
Thank you, man, and thanks for being a part of this.
What about a double left-right choir? So-
A double choir
Double
piece.
choir, where you'd have a choir on the left and a choir on the right, and they could go back and forth, sing together. That'd be fun.
And you might even be able to divide it.
Yeah.
So maybe a new piece. You could even divide it by hemispheres,
Yeah.
right? So northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It's pretty interesting. Do you want to write something? I think we've got time for a couple more questions. Yes, sir.
So tell us a little bit about the compositional process of writing Water Night. Who were you writing it for, and what was it like writing it?
So for me, I'm a very slow writer. I agonize over it. Like John, and I think I probably took this from you, I don't use finale or Sibelius. I write with number 2 pencil and paper, and like you were saying in your opera, that when you cut and paste, you literally cut and paste with scissors and tape.
That's right.
Yeah, and so generally writing for me is a very slow process. Now, in 1994, I was in the 7th year of my undergraduate degree at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and I had just been accepted to the Juilliard School to begin my master's degree. And I was told that because I had failed a voice jury, I hadn't memorized an Italian art song, and they caught me on it, that I was going to be held back and I wasn't going to graduate and I couldn't go to Juilliard. And I was so upset I dropped out of school. I packed up my 72 Mustang and I went home, and that was it. I was done with school. And there was a man, Bruce Mayhall, a choir conductor who I was very close with and was an early champion of some of my choral music. And we had this lunch together, and in one 4-hour session, he changed my life. He said, you've not only got to go back to school, but you have to embrace your life as an artist. You have to admit that this is who you are, and you have to do this thing. It was just, it was one of those forks in the road that only in retrospect you realize how important it was. And on the way home, I thought, I have to do something for him. I just have to give him a gift. I have to do something. And I went home and I opened my book of poetry, Octavio Paz, and it was in Spanish, but I read the English translation. This is what is set here. And for the first and only time in my life, I could hear the music while I was reading the poetry. And the entire piece took me about 45 minutes to write. And it was more like taking dictation than it was actually composing. And there was this incredible sense of surrender while it was happening. And that giant chord, when we get that big 14, if you open your eyes. And I remember getting to that moment thinking, you can't write in 14 parts, and what is this crazy? And there's just this sense of letting go. It was beautiful. I wish I could find that place again. But that was Water Night, so it has a doubly special meaning for me in this iteration. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of like the 14-part split, I remember when I was recording my video, it said like just pick a part and sing it. So like, how did you balance that? Did you have to like listen to each one and figure out like which divisi they picked and like even it out? Or?
It's a funny thing, that once you have 1,400 sopranos, it kind of balances itself. You know what I mean? I mean, truly, it's just the law of averages. Suddenly, it starts to sound like it's supposed to. It's kind of amazing. But yeah, I guess that's what I did say. Pick a part and sing it, right?
Yeah.
Just go. Yeah, it worked out just fine.
Awesome.
Yeah, just randomly. Johann de May, brilliant composer.
Thank you, Rick. So until now you have used existing music. Would you consider to write something specifically for this new medium? Because I think it's fascinating. And I think you can do something different than you would do for regular choir music.
Yeah, that has to be the next step, right? Or a step soon. 100 parts, yeah. Yeah, it has to be, right? That embraces the technology itself and then makes that part of the composition.
And that you, from the beginning, think it would also always be visual, or that you first think, just do the oral parts, just do recordings?
Oh, I see what you're saying. So no video, but just get the audio.
Yeah, so from the beginning, always thought that it's going to be a video thing, or that you, in the beginning, think, I'll just record
just
so many
sounds.
people and then put it together?
I toyed with that because you can imagine how much easier our life would be if there weren't video to deal with, if it were just audio. But the truth is, it's somehow that's the humanizing factor, at least for me it is. Especially, as I was saying with Britland, being able to see into people's lives, it's just so intimate. It's to see their living rooms and their, that to me somehow is bigger than the music in a way. But I do like the idea of, John and I were talking backstage before about writing a piece like the Honda commercial.
Yeah.
Right?
You all know that Honda commercial that's all voices and they imitate the car starting, rain coming down on the car, and yeah, that is a chorus doing that. And they're doing it without any words, just making psst, and they're tapping their teeth to get raindrops like that. And it's amplified, of course, but I love it. It's fantastic. I got the music to it and studied it, and it's really marvelous. There's not a word spoken, and you really hear the car and the motion and everything else due to what the human voice can do besides singing words. And that's a point you could go into.
Yeah.
You know, expressing nonverbal musical ideas.
Yeah, it would be amazing to write something specific for the group, wouldn't it? Yeah, exactly. Cloudburst or yeah.
I love the intimacy of the occasions when you have time to actually see a face, like you actually recognize, here's a human, you can see some emotion there, and almost would love some more of the story behind that person. And I don't know whether there's a way to do it. There's a trade-off here between numbers of people and how many stories you could tell, but you know, that story that here is a person who just lost their job and you know, their dog is dying, but here they are singing. And so this idea of choirs singing to each other, I mean, I think you're at the start point of possibility here, but the idea of a choir of kids singing to adults or a choir of older people somehow symbolically passing on their wisdom, left and right, you know, China. We had a project once at TED where we had people, a choir in one country singing the national anthem of another country, and it was incredibly moving. And I think you're at the start point of possibility here, and just, you know, find that, if you can find that genie that you know, that gives you that thing. I cannot wait to see what
I'm waiting for that inspiration. Please, God, come and find me. I'm right here. I'm here. I'm just waiting. Maybe we have time for one last question. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
I know that you're looking at this from the perspective of people coming from around the world and joining together in a choir, but would you ever use it as a training tool to send ahead to your professional choirs so that they can learn and be prepared, so when you get there, it's less work to be done? And I don't know, I just see a huge market.
That's very interesting. It's market. You mean like making money? Is that, or you mean just a lot of people?
Money from it, but obviously, but also you're preparing people with your work before you arrive to conduct the different choirs that you do.
Yeah, what's interesting. So there have been a number of choirs now, real choirs, who have given concerts where they used my conductor track as the conductor track, and then they sang to it, but live. But the funny thing about it is it's a very artificial form of, I notice myself when I'm conducting to the virtual choir, first I'm only hearing the music in my head, right? So I'm doing all of this crazy stuff. I'm looking up, I don't know where, over here, and I'm asking for this, and in a way I'm being more animated than I might with even a group of people in a room. Do you know what I'm saying? And my initial fear would be that I would be teaching them this crazy version of it, this kind of a heightened Technicolor version. Do you know what I mean? And then you show up and it's like, hey, easy boy, just come on down. There's only 50 of you, not 4,000. Just take it down a notch.
Your animation was inspirational and actually very encouraging, especially when you're in your room on your own, because you need that to get you going. So that was,
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Even more exaggerated was a good, well, from my experience, it was a good thing.
Well, that means everything. That's great.
So that was the whole thing was inspirational.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, first, I want to thank Chris Anderson and John Corigliano for being here. Thank you both. And thank you so much to Lincoln Center and to the young patrons of Lincoln Center for hosting this. Apparently there are thousands of people on the webcast right now watching this, which is so exciting. You're all famous now. And finally, I'd like to thank all of the members of Virtual Choir 3. I I just can't believe I get to be a part of this amazing family that you've all created. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, apparently now there's a reception, so we'll just be here hanging out, and I think the bar is opening. Is that right? Woo! All right. I'll see you over there.